Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. I'm Gayatri. I work as a program manager at Vartana. So, the webinar theme is like pedagogy and school management. For today's webinar, we'll be focusing on the topic how active learning works. Get student talking, thinking, and doing. So, let's get started for today's webinar. So, we have few agenda for today's. One, we'll start with the introduction and session objective. Then we'll understand what is active learning and why it is important. Then we'll go through certain strategies you can implement inside your classroom for active learning and how to assess strategies for assessment. Then finally, we'll close the session with the feedback. So here, let's start with the session objective. So we have like four main objectives for today's session. First thing is to understand what is the principle of this active learning is and how it can benefit your classroom better. And also to understand what are the different strategy you can try inside the classroom so that it increases student engagement. It also helps to develop certain skills like collaboration, problem solving, and critical thinking. And finally, how do you assess whether this active learning technique is working for you or not using certain strategies? So let's get started. The first thing we'll be doing is that a case study. So here you have to imagine yourself as a class 7 science teacher. Okay, so in your classroom, just close your eyes and imagine in your classroom today you want to talk about ecosystem. So what you're doing is that you are assigning certain roles to students. Some of the group are assigned as sun, some of them are assigned as plant, some of them assigned as different animals, right? And instead of showing, you want them to arrange themselves so that the energy flow is demonstrated, like how the first start with the plant, then goes with the animal, then comes the next set of animals, how the ecosystem energy flow. You will ask the student to enact it, you will help them to enact it. And also throughout this activity you will remove certain elements like plants. What happens when plant is removed? What happens certain animal is goes into extinct, right? So this is how you are teaching the ecosystem in your classroom. And you observe students are like really engaging, they're able to recall what is happening, and they're able to tell the food chain, like why it is important, each and element in the food chain. So now the question for you is that, come back to the session today. Why do you think, like, do you think this activity is effective than going for a normal lecture or reading it from your textbook? If yes, why do you think this activity is effective? If someone thinks this is not effective, you can share that as well. But I wanted to hear from you. Is it effective? If so, why it is effective? So I request each and every participant to please participate. So this will help us to like learn from each other and make the entire session more engaging. You can put it in the chat box as well. So why do you think this activity is more effective? Can anyone unmute themselves and talk? So today the session is active learning. So I want my participant also to be active. So yeah, please. Yes, sir.
When students themselves involved and observing that
Yes.
and that explanation when they are following, they will come to know that personally if one plant is removed, how it is affected. So as they are involved into that activity, they will imbibe those thoughts permanently.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. Sir has articulated really well. So, if a student gets some questions about the ecosystem in an exam, then they'll visualize, okay, this is the activity this I have done. I was that plant, I got removed. What are the effects, right? So, when they are involved, they imbibe the knowledge. Thank you so much for answering that, Ajay sir. Let's move forward. So this is what active learning is. So what is the definition of active learning? The entire teaching approach goes by involving the students actively in the entire learning process. How do you involve them? By asking them to by asking them to do certain tasks, by asking them to discuss, reflect. Basically, you'll encourage them to apply the concept rather than memorizing or just listening to the entire concept. So this is what we call it as active learning. So why this is important? So recall the example case study I've told you. Now you can picturize why this is important. One, it will enhance their retention. They'll remember the concept very easily. They remember what is the idea behind it, what they have to do, what is the knowledge behind it. Second, this will help them to unlock their skill development, be it like critical thinking, be it like communication, be it like problem solving. all these skills will develop. Third, they will take the ownership of their own learning process because they are involved in the learning process. Fourth one, you will have an amazing interactive classroom. Each and every student will try to contribute their input, opinion, questions, doubts, everything. And finally, this is what even NEP like insist also well. Like we have to have an interactive classroom for a holistic development. So this is why active learning is important. Now that we have seen why active learning is important, we'll also explore how or what strategy you can use inside your classroom for this active learning. So I'm going to show you, there are many strategy, but here in today's session, I'm going to show you 5 active learning strategy that you can use for any subject or any class. The very first one is concept mapping race. We'll go into each of this in detail, but let's understand what are these 5. Second one is gallery walk debate. Third one is switch the role. Fourth one is 1-minute case. And fifth one is spot the mistake. So we'll go through one by one in detail. So you can even ask question or you can add if you have already used this particular strategy in your classroom. So let's first understand what is concept mapping race. So what you will do is that as a teacher, you will divide the classroom into groups. This is a group activity, right? You will ask the students to create a concept map on any theme within a given time so that you can see how they are connecting to each and every concept. So here I've given an example of types of ecosystem. So here you can see like how the concept map is done for natural or artificial or man-made ecosystem. So why this is important or how this will be benefit to your classroom is that one, this makes the entire learning very visually appealing and interactive. Students will recall it very easily if it is visually and interactive enabled. This also promotes teamwork because this is a group activity. Good evening, ma'am. And then through this activity, you'll also explore if there is any misconception or any gap in understanding. It will be clearly visible to you that you can address it immediately. This will also help to develop the higher order thinking skills like analysis, synthesis, critical thinking, etc. So now I will tell you an example how you can use it inside a classroom. So let's take, for example, this is a grade 9 class history teacher. Consider yourself as a history teacher. You are going to teach them about causes of revolt of 1857. So instead of generally teaching what is there in the textbook on telling about why this happened, what happened, as a teacher, you're dividing them into 4 different groups and you're giving them a chart paper with markers. Okay. And they have 7 minutes of time. Even 5 minutes you can take, whatever works for you. And you're asking them to create a concept map of causes of revolt of 1857. Since we have 4 groups, Group A talks about political causes. They draw all the elements which are the major political causes for this revolt. Group B talks about economic, Group C talked about social causes, and Group D maps about military causes. So what happens once the time is up, every group has to put the map on the wall. Now, each group has to go around the entire classroom and see how one is connected to the other. And then as a teacher, then you can connect all 4 concepts into one big concept, explaining how each of these 4 elements has sparked the revolt. If you do it in a general convention method of reading the textbook, this would be a heavy concept for them to digest or even to comprehend. But if you do it in this way, they'll know, okay, I'm the one who have done the political causes. My friend has worked on the economic causes. How these two are related. What happened to social? What happened to military, right? So what is the outcome of this entire activity is that they will remember the smallest detail and how multiple factors are interlinked so that this entire theory becomes more memorable for them by instead of doing a simple lecture. So this entire concept mapping works really well with any subject, involves a lot of steps and concept like science, social, specifically history, geography, and even languages. English and English and Tamil or regional language works very well as well. Now let's move to the second example. Gallery walking debate. As the name says, this is a group activity where the student rotate between stations where they add ideas and respond to their peer work. I'll tell what it exactly. So why this is important or what benefit it brings to your classroom is that here children learn from their peer, and also this activity encourages deeper discussion, like going beyond the textbook lines. And also this is one important activity which encourages every student to contribute, to write ideas, to discuss ideas, to debate the ideas. So this activity also put a student in a position where they have to compare two different scenario or ask question or add ideas. This will ultimately improve the critical thinking. And also this is again a visually active, interactive, collaborative activity. So I'll give you an example again. So here we are going to take a grade 10 English. Here the teacher is going to discuss about themes in poetry. Again, the teacher is dividing the class into four different groups. They are giving four different charts placed in four different corners of the room. Now each of the theme or each of the chart represent one theme from the poem: freedom, knowledge, fearlessness, and progress. What happens next is that every group is given 5 minutes. They have to add certain input with respect to the theme. Once they have done, they have to go to the next chart, understand what the previous group has written, add example, or if they feel there is certain interpretation could be done better, or if they feel there is counterpoint, they can add it. So once every group has visited all the charts, now what happens is that they go through the whole chart again, because now four different groups have added points. Here they can agree to points or disagree to the points. This will enhance the discussion. So what the discussion is that the class has to come back to their own groups. One particular representative has to like summarize what is the theme, entire idea is from the chart they have given, what point they agree to, what point they are disagree, how they connect from one theme to another. So this is what the entire activity will be happening. So from this activity, what is the outcome we will be getting is that here they will be collaboratively build a layer of understanding. Like under freedom, four different groups is adding points. So now they have four different layer of understanding of the same thing. This will also help them to do critical thinking, collaboration, and also have a good debate. So this is what your classroom will be doing it. If we go to the next strategy, that is switch the role. Here what happens is that again it's a group activity where each and every student is encouraged to take certain roles, and we'll keep rotating these roles. What are these roles? Like questioner, summarizer, explainer, challenger, right? This is predominantly where there's a problem has to be solved or the task has to be solved. What are the benefits out of this particular activity is that everyone will get a equal participation, because each and every student has to play one role. This will enhance their collaboration as well as accountability in the groups. Not some people can sit at the back and just like make sure that only few people answer, right? This will also help them to develop the higher order thinking skills. And here the group work will be more structured and productive. So how do you can use this in your classroom? Again, I'll give an example. Since this involves solving, I've taken maths example. So let's take grade 8 maths. Here the student has to solve a word problem. We know how generally students are very, very hesitant towards word problem. So we can make it interesting through this particular strategy. So again, here teacher divides the students into four different groups, and each group has given a specific role. So group A is questioner. What they have to do is that they have to read the problem. They have to ask certain question to make sure the entire classroom understand the questions, what we have to do. And then comes the explainer. Here their role is they have to suggest what step or what strategy they'll be using to solve the problem. Next comes the solver, who actually performs the calculation, shows how it is working. The final one is challenger. Here that particular group is responsible to review the solution, look for any errors, or even suggest improvements, right? So this is how they will approach a word problem. Once they have solved this entire problem, again rotate the role for the next word problem. By this, every group gets an opportunity to play all the role. So here, some children are good at solving the task, like maths problem, right? Whereas some find it very difficult to comprehend the question. They need someone to explain what is the question itself. So if you do this activity, you will be able to understand who is having that kind of struggles or who is good at what. And here they have pushed out from the comfort zone to really think, comprehend, understand, explain, even solve and challenge the problem. So here again, after doing entire activity, you can ask the group to share which role they find it really interesting or which was more challenging, so that you can have a proper support system to enhance their productivity. The entire outcome of this activity would be like, definitely it's going to strengthen their problem solving ability, but also helps them to develop the communication, reasoning and critical thinking skill. Here they're not solving problem like all by themselves. Here they have to solve along with the group. That also they have to play only one part of the role. So that's why it's very important to solve problems and make it interesting through this activity. Let's move to the next one. This is 1 minute case. As the name suggests, it's a very, very quick activity. You don't have much time, but you just wanted to make the entire classroom very interactive. What you'll do, you give us very small case or scenario, and you just give 1 minute for them to propose a solution, right? It can be doable, possible, impossible solution. That doesn't matter. But they have to think and come up with a solution. So how this going to benefit? Here, it will trigger their quick thinking and decision making skill, right? And also here, their classroom learning is connected to the real world situation, which matters a lot, and how they can precisely, concisely do the communication. And this will always keep them in high energy and very alert, right? Because it's 1 minute, they have to come up with solution. So they are very high alert throughout this entire activity. So how do you can do it in the classroom? Again, I'll give an example. Here I've taken science concept, conservation of water. Here again, any concept, concept-based topic or subject works really well. So what you do as a teacher, you give one small life scenario. Your topic might be conservation of water. So you will ask them or tell them a scenario. Say, for example, your area or your city is facing a lot of water shortage, but at home you see that there is a leaking tap and family members are not closing the tap, or they are just leaving the tap open while brushing. Suggest one quick action to save the water, right? You can do it in pairs, you can do it in individual, whatever works according to the strength of your classroom. Then you will collect, just give 1 minute of time, then ask them to write the responses, right? And then anyone can share the responses. After sharing the responses, now you will connect the topic to the real world scenario and how their solution has helped it, right? Then you can go for like topics like electricity cut in summer. Here, what you're ultimately doing is that you're not only teaching water conservation, but enabling them to apply that knowledge in the real world scenario. For a current era, this is very, very important, right? Students has to think beyond their books and able to apply the knowledge in real life. So after doing this entire activity, the outcome would be students will be able to relate the concept to everyday life. And here they'll be able to make quick decision like what solution works better, how do I solve this problem, how do I have to think better. So these are the skills you will be unlocking it. The last strategy is spot the mistake. This is very, very interesting. Why? Because generally students love to spot error, right? That too, when teacher is teaching a certain topic, they love to spot the error. So you are just making sure or leveraging that that particular thing. So here, what we do is that we will ask the student to look for the error which you deliberately created and ask them to correct it. Why this works? Again, here you are asking the children or the student to pay attention to the detail or even think critically what is the error, right? And here they will not only understand what is error, but also understand why it is error. Most of the time, children repeat the same mistake because they don't understand why this is a wrong, why this approach is wrong. This will get solved by this particular activity. Now they'll understand why something is wrong and also help them to have a proper discussion with their group and justify why their solution really works. Most importantly, this is that beautiful moment of turning mistake into powerful learning way. I'll give you an example. So I've taken an example of, again, science, states of matter, right? So instead of just telling students that evaporation happens at every point, not just boiling point, here you're using this activity. You will be writing on the board, evaporation happens only when water reaches its boiling point, right? Now you ask them to identify the mistake. They will just be wondering like what's happening. Isn't this true? Why this is false, right? Then they'll have a discussion. They'll understand which particular word is the error here. And they will correct it. To justify the answer, they have to give an example, right? So at the end of the activity, what discussion happens is that evaporation happens at any temperature. It's not just boiling. Example like how wet clothes are drying, how our sweats are drying, all these things are the example. So here they just don't come up with the random answer of identifying the mistake. They have to correct it. They have to justify why that particular one is error and their answer is correct. So the outcome of this activity would be that they'll be able to understand the difference between what is the misconception and what is the correct concept, right? And also give everyday experiences. So these are the 5 activities you can try at your classroom. Whichever subject you are handling, depending upon the subjects, you can have a combination of activity, or you can take one activity and work it. I'm not suggesting you have to do this active learning every day in your classroom, which will be an ideal situation, but try to include any of this active learning strategy at times in your classroom, like weekly, twice, thrice, depending upon the topic you're handling. So now we'll have a small quick poll to understand how we have gone through this entire strategies and active learning. So the first question would be for the audience is that, which of the following best describes an active classroom? You can either put it in the chat box or you can unmute and tell. According to you, out of all these 4 situations, which one is the active learning classroom? Option A, the teacher explains while student taking notes. Option B, student participate to discussion, problem solving, collaboration. Option C, student copy notes from the board. Option D, teacher reviews the textbook content. I could see some of you have already answered. Option B, okay. Is somebody having any other option you think that as an active classroom? Option B, okay. Yes, option B is the correct answer. Active learning is basically involving them in the learning process. Yes, option B. Next comes the second question for all of you. The second question is that after conducting an active learning activity, which teacher action best supports deeper learning? Option A, sharing the correct answer immediately. Second, letting students reflect on what worked and what didn't. Option C, giving mark based on the group performance. Option D, ending the activity once students seem engaged. See, all of them seems to be correct, but according to you, what do you think the immediate action supports a deeper learning? The key is deeper learning. Okay. Some of you said option B. Option B. Okay. I'll wait for some more responses. Option B. Okay. Yes. Yes. Many of you have correctly found out. Disha ma'am is also said ending the activity once students seem engaged. If you think that is the right answer, that's okay. But for deeper learning, it's always better for students to reflect on their own. That's when the deeper learning will get unlocked. Thank you all for suggesting the answer. Option B would be the most appropriate answer here. So let's move to the next part of the session. I've talked about like so many strategies you can try inside your classroom. But you will also be wondering, okay, I'm trying this strategy, but how do I know whether my children how do I do the check for understand? Whether my children understood the concept, how do I have to assess them, right? Here I'm going to suggest you 3 simple assessment strategy. One is exit ticket. Second, observation checklist. Third one is peer review. I've kept it really, really simple because doing this activity itself will take a lot of time inside your classroom. So the assessment should be very simple, but also able to capture the essence of these strategies. So let's go through one by one. One is exit ticket. I think most of you should be aware of it. We almost talk in every webinar about this exit ticket. Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Kumari ma'am, option B. What it is, it's a very quick 1 or 2 minute written responses after doing the activity. You can just ask them to write it in the textbook or a small slip or any notebook works, right? So that now you have a solid evidence that, okay, after you have some time, you can go through the answers and you can understand, okay, whether my children got the concept or there is misconception or any knowledge gap. So how do you use it, right? If you're doing concept map, you can very simply you can do it. You can ask them, what is the one new connection? Concept map is connecting concept, right? What is one new connection they have discovered today? Or if you're doing gallery walk debate, what you can ask them, what is it one idea from a different group help you to change your thinking. With respect to spot the mistake, you can ask, what is that important correction I learned, right? So this not only keeps you like doing the activity, but also a simple method to understand whether the children got the point or not. So this is exit ticket, which you can, if you have 1 or 2 minutes, and if you have time to review the answer, go for it. Second one is observation checklist. What it is, you have a simple rubrics in hand, a checklist in hand. So you don't have much time to go back, review each and every answer. What do you do? Take the checklist in your hand, go through every group, what they're doing. While doing their activity itself, you will tick the checklist, right? That's a very simple technique. So when this is you will be doing when the learning is happening, not when the final answer is written. While they're doing the activity itself, you will be capturing it, right? So how you can use it? When they're doing the switch the role, see if everyone has performed the role and how did they perform, whether they're able to do it better or some roles they're struggling, like that. In 1 minute, Kate, what you can do is that see whether they're able to come up with a relevant and logical solution, right? That helps you to figure it out whether this person has understood the concept or not. I can show you a simple template which you can follow. Just give me a moment, I'll open it. So this is the template. I'll zoom it a bit. I'll share all these templates right away with you in this meeting itself. So this is a observation rubric, right? How do you mark someone as excellent? How do you mark someone as satisfactory? How do you mark someone as needs improvement? Excellent get 3 points, satisfactory get 2 points, and needs improvement get 1 point, right? So you have certain criteria, whether they're able to fulfill the role, how they are participating, how their responses is, are they interacting, collaborating, how their problem skills. So you have what you have to look under each and every criteria and the rubric. You also have a template here. So simply put down what is the grade, what subject, student name, and what is the role they're performing. And under each of these, you can mark them from 1 to 3, 3 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. And then you can immediately note it. This particular student is struggling in challenger role. This particular student is able to get it half correct, half wrong. So when you go back and reflect, it will help you to understand which students needs more attention. So this is that particular template. I'll share it with you at the end of this webinar. I'm coming back to the slide. So this is observation checklist. You don't have time to go back and review. You will do it when the activity is happening. The third one is peer review feedback. Say you don't have time to check at the end of the activity, or you don't have time to go through it when activity is happening. Then this comes very handy, right? Here you are encouraging students to give feedback to the another student so that they have listened to other groups' input as well, and they are able to evaluate them basically. Okay, so this not only helps them to critical thinking, but also accountable and have a deeper reflection. How you can use it? Under gallery work debate, you can ask the group to leave one strength or one suggestion. If you're doing that concept map where they have to map the concept, here you can see, ask them to compare map and highlight the strongest link from different teams. Or if you're doing 1 minute case, you can ask the peer to vote which solution was the most practical or best solution. Here they not only pay attention, they also have to tell why they think this is the best solution, right? So this you can apply it effectively when you don't have much of time at the end of the class or during the activity. You want your students themselves to review and give feedback. For this also you have a simple template. I'll show you that as well. Again, here we have follow the same rubric: excellent, satisfactory, needs improvement. Each goes by the scoring of 3, 2, 1. What is the criteria, right? Here what you will do is that you will encourage them to give feedback, but you will also look at what kind of feedback they're giving, right? It should make sense, logic, right? So you will be understanding the specificity of the feedback, how constructively it is designed, what insight they're offering, how respect and professionally they're giving feedback, how it is relevant to the whatever we asked, or how actionable it is, right? So this goes as a next level. You are evaluating the evaluator itself. That's the idea of peer review and feedback. So coming back to the tab. So these are the 3 strategy you can try in your classroom to make sure whether these activity classroom is working for you or not. So now it's reflection time. So much of I've talked so much, like what is strategy, what is assessment. Now I want you to take some really good time to reflect, right? As a teacher or as a school leader, imagine your students could come directly and tell you how they learn in your class, right? Say one day they wanted to open up very honestly, frankly, coming to you, ma'am, this is how your class, I'm learning, this is what your class mean to me, sir, this is what I'm doing in your class. What do you want them to say, right? Just put your take a moment to reflect and put your thoughts in the chat box, or even unmute and talk. What you want your students to say about your class, the way they learn.
Sir, just asking.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, understood.
Yes.
Reading that.
Okay, sir. Okay, yeah, please.
When they speak directly to the teacher, how they learn
Yes.
in the classroom,
Yes.
and if most of the students express the same concept, it is easy for the teacher to uh, implement the same procedure more times.
Okay.
And it's a nice thing also.
Okay. So basically, I wanted to understand a student coming to you and they're going to tell about how they learn in your classroom, how they feel about your classroom, basically, right? What answer you would want to hear?
Generally, positive feedback.
Yes, of course. Yes. Anybody else?
Mm,
Anyone else wanted to share? Okay. Okay. So ultimate the idea is that why I wanted you to reflect is that, like, whatever you want them to say about your class. Say I'm a teacher. What I want to hear from my student. Mom, I'm really enjoying your class. Your class is very clear. I get to learn a lot in your class. I get to I get to be very happy and very satisfied that I'm learning really well. This is what I wanted to hear from my students about my class, right? Yes. Somebody has shared. Tisha ma'am, good feedback and tell and open up where they need help if they have understood their help. Absolutely right. You want your children to open up to you, and also you want your children to like get the most from your classroom. So this is your basic or the foundation point you want to establish inside a classroom. But how do you do that? That's when the active classroom or active learning strategy works. So children learn best when they are involved in the learning process. So I would encourage each one of you to try this active classroom strategy or active learning strategy and see how it works or what difference it makes. Mohan sir typed a message. We enjoy learning in your class because you make every topic easy to understand, connect with real life example. To encourage us to ask questions, never make us feel shy or afraid to make mistakes. You give us chance to think, discuss, explore on our own. You believe in us even when we doubt ourselves. You make learning fun and fair. Such a beautiful message, right? Isn't it? Every school leader, teacher aim is to hear this kind of feedback from our child or my student. So if you look at sir point, every point he mentioned is there in this active learning strategy. We want them to connect to real life example. We want them to correct the mistakes. We want them to not feeling afraid or shy to share their points. So I would say this is the starting point. What do you want to establish in your classroom? Bring that as your foundation point. From there, build this active learning strategy. So let's move to the next. We'll summarize this entire session. So what is this active learning is? So it's transforming a classroom by passive listening to active participation. Basically, that's the major transformation we will be seeing it. Second thing is that, again, it strengthens collaboration, critical thinking, deeper understanding, and long-lasting memory. This is very, very crucial for kids in today's world, because once they come out of the school and college, these are the essential skills they have to perform to be better. Third most important, simple assessment. You have only 3 assessment. You can use any of these, help you to track progress. It shouldn't be like very complicated thing for a teacher, right? It should be very simple, but also effective to understand where is the gap happening or whether my children are understood the concept really good. So this is what about today's session. So I hope the points are clear to all of you. What is active learning is, why it is important, what are the 5 strategy, and how you can use 3 different assessment to assess your classroom. So next we'll just go through the Vartana partners. So if you are interested in Lead or Kayan, you can just give the same thing in the feedback form. Basically, Lead is something which integrates the technology learning solution inside a classroom, and Kayan is a multimedia computer with a data projector, which helps you to create a vibrant and interactive learning space. So if you have any support or any need required from Vartana, please contact the number or mail ID given here. We'll be happy to help you out. So I hope today's session was insightful for all of you. And I'm glad that you're able to join and make this session a wonderful one. Thank you all for joining today's session. I hope all of you stay safe and have a nice weekend.